How's it going, friends? It's been a while since I did one of these walk and talks, but I'm going through a transitional period in my life. Walking this morning, thinking about things, getting excited. You know, there's always a lot of little fear and trepidation when you're facing big changes, but man, one of the best benefits of the kind of meditation and just inner work that I've done is that you really do get very effective at turning your emotions towards positive, turning them in a positive direction. And so I'm just excited. I'm getting ready. I'm thinking about exactly what I want to do with the coming chapter of my life. And, obviously, as with most of us, once you reach an adult age, your mind goes right to responsibilities, like how am I going to turn this opportunity into a situation where I can maximize my contributions to humanity. But on this walk, on this beautiful, beautiful trail, it's nice and cool here. And I say it's nice and cool because this trail in the summertime, when it's hot, this thing is just full of buzzing, stinging insects. There's snakes everywhere down here. There's wetlands all around here. Can't really see it much from here. I'm kind of getting up on the hilltop, but most of the area around here are swampy wetlands, lots of cottonmouths and stuff like that. But it's a nice walk during the right times of year. But anyway, there's probably something to be said for all of life about that, huh? Different seasons different places can be nice walks depending on the season of the year, the season of your life. That's kind of cool. But anyway, so as I'm thinking about all of these responsibilities, all the things that I have to do, which are obviously they are completely applicable. But then I started asking myself, well, what does that really mean? Because another thing that happens as you get older, you start to look at things that you once thought were so important. And you just kind of begin to realize like they really weren't that important. And it's a funny thing because some people take that and they allow it to put them in a kind of depressive place. I don't look at it that way. I look at it more as like becoming unburdened, becoming liberated, and being able to look around and see what really does matter in this incredible adventure of life. And that adventure of life is something that I'm going to be getting back to in just a moment here. But you begin to ask, well, okay, but what does this mean to fulfill my responsibility? What does this mean to optimize my positive influence in this life? And the thing is, I've thought quite a lot about this. And I really think that perhaps the most important contribution we can make to this world is to fully embody who we are, what this unique divine spark, this unique representation of the great divine spark. We're the smaller spark of the larger spark. We've all been given a certain identity. We are certain manifestations of God's reality. The reality encompasses everything. We are all like unique little portraits of aspects of it. And we become larger and we expand, but I'm actually not one of those people who thinks that we can or should, or maybe I should say should. I don't doubt that we can. I don't think that, to me, the goal is not to just dissolve my ego and to become one with the all. I don't know, maybe that'll change someday, but I just don't see it that way. I mean, if that was the case, then every single guru of every transition or every tradition would have wound up to be the exact same person, and they don't, right? Like you read about all these great spiritually adept people, and they all still have their personal idiosyncrasies and preferences and personalities. But so when I say that, I totally understand that I can go in a direction of narcissism. You can say, well, that seems ridiculous to say that it's just all about me, man. It's all about me. And I get that. But I'm not saying it's all about you. Life's not that simple. Like there's always the temptation to look at things in those black and white manners, but that's not really the truth. It's just like if you're going to the gym, right? One could say that's a narcissistic behavior because you're making yourself healthy and fit and looking good, but doesn't everybody in your life benefit from that? Everybody in your life benefits from that. Your family and friends benefit from you being a happier and healthier person, but also like just people in general will benefit because you will have less of a chance of becoming a problem through bad health, becoming a burden on people. So just trying to separate it into quote unquote selfish or selfless is actually a lot more ambiguous when you really dive into it, when you look at it objectively and honestly. And so I'm just sitting here thinking, the key is not to figure out what is the quote unquote optimal way to contribute my time and life on this earth. The question is really, what is the optimal way for me to contribute my time and energy on this earth? Because we're all different. We have different gifts, different desires, different tendencies, just different dimensions to our psychic makeup. And, one person might make contribution X, and that contribution is completely true to who they fundamentally are. And so in that, they are moving naturally like a fish through water. And everybody that they meet in their life, everybody that they touch, they're going to spread this divine spark to them. Because you've seen that. You've all seen those people, right? We've all met them. Maybe you are one. Those people who just truly are who they are. It's rare. There's not many of them. There are people who get closer to it. It's not like a perfect duality or anything. It's more of like a spectrum. But you meet those extraordinary people where you just feel like this person knows exactly who they are and they are embodying exactly who they are. And it leaves an impression on you. It inspires. It's a really neat thing to experience and to meet somebody like that. It's particularly neat to me when you meet somebody who is involved in a field that is very opposite to your own personal nature. But when you see them and you realize that that is their full nature and they are living in it to their maximal natural freedom, it can still be a beautiful thing to see. You can be looking at somebody and being like, man, their whole thing is finance. But you know what? That's their world. And you can see that's the world they were meant to swim in. And they know it. And it's always nice to see people like that, to meet people like that. It's inspiring. And so to me, but then at the same time, you could find somebody who also goes into whatever that field X is, that field of contribution X. But because it's not to their nature, they're completely miserable, right? And they're angry. And they're just not a pleasant person to be around. They spread toxicity and negativity. And in those cases, you can look at it and get to the end of that person's life and say, well, yeah, you did contribution X, like maybe you were running some great nonprofit. And believe me, everybody, I know the truth about nonprofits. I'm just using this. We'll say this is a good nonprofit that really was contributing to the betterment of humanity. But you were a complete, miserable, unbearable jerk outside of that. And you brought people down and you insulted them and you just were basically a black cloud over their lives. I do think those things will have to be balanced. And I do think that just being an SOB in your daily life can outweigh any bigger contributions that you make. Everybody likes to talk a lot about the early Steve Jobs when he was obsessed with putting a dent in reality and all of that. But towards the end of his life, he actually had this quote where he said, I look back, I realize, what did I really change? I mean, really, life is still essentially the same. You're born, you live, you work, you die. We have the mysteries of this life. We have the people that we love. Everything's basically the same. And he realized that and wished that he had been more of a present father and just friend and just person in general. Because he was so obsessive with work and was really not pleasant for people to be around. And so all of these things have to be weighed. And to me, what we're really searching for is that golden spot right in the middle where we are contributing, we are doing something. And when I say contributing, I'm not saying it has to be like, oh, I'm going to feed the children of this starving country or something. I mean anything. You could be working in a gas station. But if that's your role, and if you go in there and you take full responsibility for that role, and you go in and you provide encouragement and inspiration to the people that you're working with and to your customers, and if you use all of the challenges that you come across as opportunities for personal growth and spiritual development, well, then that's awesome. And that may very well be what you were put here for. So when I say contribution, I'm not saying it in the way that it's so commonly used. You know, some kind of heroic mission to save this or that. I actually think those things usually wind up being illusions and delusions of the ego that don't really help much of anybody in the end. Just kind of a glamour, just kind of a show, a mask. There's a great part in Moby Dick when Ahab talks about stabbing the face behind the mask and his obsession to do so. But anyway, just interesting thoughts. This life is meant to be an adventure. And yes, we have responsibilities, absolutely. And people need to be more responsible these days, because the fact is we have built kind of a narcissistic culture. However, don't swing so far in the other direction that you look at your life as nothing but this toilsome duty job. Not only can we have both, I think we should have both. I think that's the whole point. If you are only looking for the work, the contribution of the work, and you're not looking at a way to do that in such a manner that you embody that work in a way that makes you purposeful and happy and excited in this life, then I think you're selling yourself short, and I think you're taking the easy way out. I don't think that's admirable, and I don't think it's wise. I think people try to convince themselves it's admirable and wise. You know, and then they wind up with families that feel like they're disconnected, they're not present, they're never in a good mood, they're overbearing, whatever. But anyway, those are just some morning thoughts. It's been a while since I did one of these, but I'm having a nice walk and thinking about a lot of things. So peace out, everybody.